Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel Royal K Snap. For today's showcase, we'll be covering the Lockjaw Reveal deck, which, similar to the Jubilee Plus Wave deck, is centered and focused around Lockjaw revealing cards and Jubilee as well, pulling cards out of our deck. Now, this deck, although it is a very high cost deck, but I also like to call it high risk, high reward. But it's only high risk, high reward depending on what you have in your hand. But in most cases, you'd most likely intimidate your opponent at turn 5. So I always snap at turn 4. Now, here's my reason. You have 5-6 cost cards in your deck. Just looking at it feels and seems crazy, but we have Chavez there for consistency. Chavez, usually you only draw at turn 6, so she's always there for consistency. Then you also have Leech. Leech is a very important card, and this is the card that makes your opponent retreat, depending on what they are playing or whatever game plan they have, pushing towards turn 6. Now, in most cases, in most of the matches I've played, they always retreat at turn 5 once the leech is revealed. They always retreat. It's an instant win. In most cases, instant win, right? Especially if they see so much power across the board with Doom, Magneto, Infinite, Odin, Chavez, right? So in most cases, they retreat immediately. They see a leech. They're like, you know what? This is impossible to win. Now, there are decks that leech does not affect, and there are decks that leech in fact actually benefits. Like, for example, one of the best counters to this deck that I have faced so far has to be the Dracula deck, because the Dracula deck will make use of Infinite. So you play leech at turn 5, you're giving them a chance to play their Infinite, because his ability is not there anymore, so they can freely play Infinite, a 20 power card at their turn 6. Now, another deck that this doesn't affect as well has to be, Typhoid Mary, Red Skull, all those negative effect cards. Basically, those are decks that this deck, that leech, does not counter, so you have to keep in mind as well. Now, the usual game plan is Scarlet. Now, Scarlet is a very important card and key card, especially when against locations like Vibranium Mines. We do not want to fill up our deck with unnecessary stuff, with things that we did not have at the start. We don't want our deck to be filled up with Vibranium Mines. We don't want our deck to be filled up with rocks. So Scarlet is to change all those locations. Then there's also Attilan. Attilan can be great for the deck and also terrible for the deck. Now, in my opinion, the best starting hand has to be Scarlet, Lockjaw, Wasp, Okoye, or Jubilee, right? Just depends on what you want to walk around with. But the most important cards to have at the start has to be Wasp, Okoye, Scarlet, Lockjaw, or Jubilee. At least before turn 3, you should have 3 or 4 of these cards, preferably. And I always like, if I have Leech and Magneto in my hand, to at least try and guarantee some sort of movement at turn 5 or at turn 6. Now, based on what I just said, we go Scarlet turn 2, depending on if we have a location to change. If we do not want to change the location, we go Okoye turn 2. Then at turn 3, we play Lockjaw plus Wasp. Assuming there's no Wasps in our hand, we just play Lockjaw. Then at turn 4, depending on what we have, right? If we have Okoye plus Wasp, we play Okoye, Wasp at Lockjaw locations. If we have nothing I want to play, then we go with Jubilee in another location, never in Lockjaw's location. I do not like playing Jubilee in Lockjaw's location, and usually it's bad when Lockjaw pulls out Jubilee. It's really bad because it just fills up the entire location. Jubilee is a 4-1, which is kind of not great, especially in a lockjaw location where you want to pull out all those high cost cards. Now, so that's why Jubilee has to be put in another location. So Jubilee in another location at turn 4, then turn 5 is usually leech. Leech is always placed in lockjaw's location on, well, could be changed per scenario, but 90% of the time, leech is always placed in lockjaw location to try and draw out Chavez before turn 6. Now, you also have your turn 6 play. Like I said earlier, I prefer Magneto being in my hand before turn 6 because it gives me a lot of flexibility around what I want to play with. Against Zabu decks, Magneto is perfect, especially if you're revealing first. Against Wong decks, Magneto is perfect if you're revealing first, right? So let me give a quick scenario. You have Wong Mystique in a location. Your opponent, your opponent is definitely going to play Odin or White Tiger or Doom. Then you tell yourself, what do I want to do? You play Magneto. If you are revealing first, this is something to note. You play Magneto in a different location. Magneto moves Wong and Mystique away from such location. Wong, Mystique, and Iron Art, if the case is, removes them from that location, then puts them in another location. So they just waste a card where they wanted to play. Wong plus Wong Mystique, Gambit, Wong Mystique, Odin, Wong Mystique, Black Panther, Wong, Black Panther, Zola. Just crazy plays. It gives you a chance to mess up whatever they have. But you've already played Leech at turn 5, so in most cases they retreat once they see the Leech at turn 5. So I hope that is real clear, and this is a very long breakdown. Thanks for listening if you are still listening to this point, and have a great day. Thank you.
it's Spider-Man here.